Hey everyone, my name is Jonathan, and I'm going to do a 2 to 4 player walkthrough of Scrapyard Empire. Now, to start the game, you are dealt 8 parts cards, which are played face up in front of you. You are dealt 5 of the small machine cards, which are placed in your hand. You dealt 1 invention card, also placed in your hand. And you are dealt 1 character card, which is played face out in front of you. Now, also on your side, you have 1 die, and you have a small machine and inventions build guide. Now, to begin the game, you take the parts, small machine, and inventions deck and place them in the middle and flip 1 card up from each. When you have your character card right here, you are done with this deck, so you can remove it from the game. Now, Scrapyard Empire begins with a draw phase. The draw phase, it's always 1 card from the parts pile. So I'm going to take it, and I have a control panel. So now we're in the action phase, and you have a few different things you can do in the action phase. One is I can choose to draw a card from either the part or the small machine deck. I can dig, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. You can steal, and you can also trade, and we'll go through the mechanics of them shortly. Action phase, you get 2 actions. So beginning of the game, now's a good time to make a plan. So I have the dirigible, and by checking out my card and my build guide right here, for the dirigible, I need a transport vessel, a weaponry system, and a jet propulsion. So I'm going to take a look at my cards right here, and I notice I have a transport vessel and a weaponry system. So the transport vessel needs a hull, a control panel, and a gearbox. So taking note of my cards right here, I have a hull and I have a control panel, but I'm missing a gearbox. So there's a pretty good chance I'm going to draw some parts cards here to try and find that gearbox. For the weaponry system, I need a steel cage, a tripod, and guns and ammo. I have a tripod and I have guns and ammo, but I am missing the steel cage. So again, good reason to go through the parts pile right there. And the last small machine I need is a jet propulsion, which I do not have. So I'm going to have to go through that small machine deck as well. So my first action, I'm going to draw a part card. Now, in the beginning of the game, if you have 5 small machine cards in your hand, then you get to draw 2 parts cards or 2 small machines cards. So I'm going to choose to draw from the parts pile, so I get 2. And that gives me a gearbox. And that gives me a petrol. Now, the 2 draw is activated whenever you have 5 small machines in your hand. So that was action 1. I needed that gearbox. Now I have all the parts to build my transport vessel. And I may not have needed the petrol right now. Action 2, I'm going to choose to draw from the small machine pile. And I got the jet propulsion that I needed, which is great. So if you notice, I now have 6 small machine cards in my hand. The maximum is 5, so at the end of the turn, unless I build something, I have to discard down to 5. And for parts, it's 8. So I've done my 2 actions. I'm going to move on to the build phase. The build phase, you can build as many small machines as you have the parts that you're able to. So I have a transport vessel, so I'm going to play the hull, the control panel, and the gearbox, and I'm going to place them face up in the parts scrap pile. And that plays out my transport vessel. Now, from here, I'm going to take a look at my other small machines. The weaponry system, steel cage, tripod, guns, and ammo. I'm still missing that steel cage. And the jet propulsion, which I do need, petrol, propeller, metal casing. I have petrol and propeller, but I'm missing the metal casing. So my draw phase is done. I've done my actions. I've built. That would be the end of my turn. Goes around the board, comes back to me, and is my draw phase. So I drew a small machine last turn and played 1 out, so I still have 5 small machines in my hand. So I'm going to go through the draw phase. I get a metal casing. And for action 1, I'm going to draw 2 cards from the part pile. I have 2 metal casings now. And a steel cage, which I needed. So I have 1 more action. For this last action, we'll go through some of the possibilities. So let's say that I needed that hull sitting there in the scrap pile. I would roll a die, and if I roll a 4, 5, 6, it's successful. If I roll a 1, 2, 3, it is unsuccessful, and that action failed. So I'm going to go for a roll here. And I rolled a 2, which is unsuccessful. Now, what I can do though is, being that I have a lot of parts cards over here to work with, I can choose to scrap parts cards and then add that number to my roll value. So a dig is successful with a 4, 5, 6, but if I take a look at my character ability, I'm Otto von Dig. Special ability is digging through the scrap pile is successful with a roll of 3, 4, 5, or 6. So being that I rolled a 2 and it's successful with a 3 for me, I only need to scrap one card. So I'm going to choose to do that. I have 2 propellers, I'm going to scrap one, and that dig is now successful. So I'm going to go through this part scrap pile here and place them face up one by one in front of me. So put the propeller down, the hull down, decide I don't want it, the control panel, and let's say I want this gearbox. So I'm going to put the gearbox on my side, put the undug through cards on top, and replace the deck. So that would have been my dig. Now I also could have done a steal from an opponent. For stealing, there's 2 different mechanics. If you want to steal a parts card, which again are face up in front of everybody, roll a die, and it's successful with a 5 or a 6. If I roll a 5 or a 6, take whatever you want from their parts pile, add it to yours, you're good. If you want to steal a small machine though, it's a little different. So roll a 5 or a 6, it's successful. We'll put the small machines up, so your opponent fans them out. You select 2 small machine cards at random. Only you get to take a look at them, choose which one you want, place it into your hand, and then return the other one to your opponent. So it's a little more difficult to get the exact small machine you're looking for because the cards are much more valuable. There's less of them. So the last action I could have done there is a trade. Now a trade, I notice my opponent has a parts card that I want, I have one they might want, so I say, hey, do you want to trade your petrol for my guns and ammo? They can say yes or no. If they say no, they can provide one counter offer. If the counter offer goes through, great. If it doesn't, then your action's over and you didn't get what you wanted. So I still have one more action here. I am going to draw one more part card and move on to my build phase. So my build phase, I drew a steel cage, so I'm going to build the jet propulsion. Jet propulsion, I need my petrol, propeller, and the metal casing. Put them in the scrap pile. Now I also have a weaponry system. Steel cage, which I now have again, tripod, and guns and ammo. So I'm going to play all 3 of those. Play them down and bring out the weaponry system. Now I have a couple different options here. I do have my invention right here. I have all the small machines required to build it, so I could play it out, be one invention ahead, and draw my next one and start to work on that. Or I can choose to wait and activate some of these special abilities next turn. Every small machine has a different special ability that requires one action to use. So, for instance, transport vessel, choose a part I control and a part an opponent controls, exchange control of those parts. Jet propulsion, choose an opponent's small machine whose special ability has not been activated and use it for myself. And the weaponry system, choose a part card from each of my opponents and they must immediately scrap those cards. So I'm actually going to wait to build my, my dirigible because I want to use some of those next turn. So that would be the end of my turn, goes around the board, comes back to me. Now I no longer have, draw phase. And I no longer have 5 small machine cards in my hand, so if I choose to do a draw for an action, I'm only going to get 1 now. So, for my first action, I will use the transport vessel. Say my opponent has a steel cage that I need. I will activate it. Let's see, I don't need this piston. I would give it to my opponent. Opponent gives me their steel cage. I'm a happy man. I have one more action to use. Let's say my 2 opponents have 2 parts cards sitting up that I really, really want, or at least want the ability to go for. I could activate the weaponry system, and I could have each of them discard a parts card to the scrap pile of my choosing. So I'll do that for my second action. So, moving on to the build phase, I am going to scrap my transport vessel, my jet propulsion, and my weaponry system, and I'm going to build the dirigible. Now, I've played my invention, I immediately replace it, and I am now trying to go for the time machine. Again, time machine requires a transport vessel, a clockwork brain, and navigatrix. I can take a look at my small machine build guide right here, see what parts those small machines require, so I can begin to formulate a plan. Now, one thing I do know is I needed a transport vessel to build that dirigible, and I also need it to build the time machine. So the transport vessel, I know it's in the small machine scrap pile, and I also know the parts required to build it are in the scrap pile. So there's a good chance that it's when my turn again, I'm going to dig and try and get those cards back and go for a quick small machine play. So, build phase, I have less than 8 parts cards, I have less than 5 small machine cards, my turn would be over. So, goes around the board, comes back to me. My draw phase, I have a steel cage now, and I'm going to choose to dig. I want to get that transport vessel back. So I'm going to roll. I rolled a 3, normally unsuccessful, but Otto von Dieg is successful with a 3. So I'm just going to snag this transport vessel right off the top. That was my first action. Now I'm going to try and dig for the parts for that transport vessel. I know there's a hull in there. So I'm going to roll again. 3, again, successful with Von Dieg. Go through the parts cards. There's quite a few more in there now that I've been building. So, got that hull. And that was my second action. To my build phase, I have nothing I can build right now. So it would be the end of my turn. I have less than 5 small machine cards. I do have 9 parts cards though, so I have to discard one. So I would choose to scrap, let's just scrap my tripod. So now I'm at 8, now I'm good to go. I would pass my turn, goes around the board, and it would continue like this. I'm trying to dig, steal, trade, draw as many parts as I can to build my small machines to get this invention out quickly, while activating my small machine special ability to screw with my opponents. That's the basics of the game. Hope you enjoy it. We've had an absolute blast making it. Thank you.